Hey everyone, welcome to the Slice of Real Estate podcast. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. Joining me today is Andrew Luong, the co-founder and CEO of Doorvest. Andrew, how's it going?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been a fun almost halfway through 2024. Many different outcomes and expectations, but here we are, and kind of just excited about the summer and kind of the back half of the year.
I love it. Well, I'm excited to chat here today. Let's dive right in. I always like to start off with this question. You're walking down the street, you run into someone, they say, "What do you do?" Um, what do you tell them about Doorvest?
Yeah, it's funny. There's like this thing where when I run into people and they ask me what I do, it's usually like I work at some intersection between real estate and tech, and they're like, and then that starts piquing their interest, and they'll ask more questions. I actually usually don't jump straight into Doorvest, but I'd say the easiest way we describe Doorvest is this online e-commerce like experience for people to buy, own, and sell investment homes online. So you could think of, I don't know, right now you could buy a pair of shoes through Amazon. You don't have to look at it. You look it up, you scroll around some pictures, and then you check out in a cart. That's what we hope to deliver with the Doorvest platform.
And I think it becomes like, your platform becomes even more critical today than in even years past. With you see a lot of the complaints from these the people that want to own homes, right, even, or
Yep.
own multiple homes for investment purposes, about the big corporations, right, buying up all the homes. This is kind of a way to also to counter that for those people, right? It's like, we're gonna give you these shares of these different properties so you can kind of build a portfolio. And I think it gets them more involved in the whole process, right, versus just doing the standard like REIT where they're buying into it. You're actually showing them which properties that they'll be buying into, right?
Right, exactly. Actually, what one minor correction is our customers are actually buying the entire home
Oh,
themselves versus a fraction of it. We kind of made an intentional decision behind that years ago. Happy to share background if that's interesting to you. But yeah, I mean, we think about that often. Like, to a degree, like I'm grateful that the large, nameless, faceless institutions got into the sector because they had the money, they had the resources to build out the systems and the way that we think about real estate ownership. Yet at the same time, like 70% of our customers are first time homeowners. So folks that oftentimes without having stumbled across Doorvest would have never been able to buy into real estate and certainly not build out their portfolio. So we're sort of taking the lessons and the playbooks that the big guys spent time and energy and money on, and then baking that into our platform and sort of gearing up the everyday person to own real estate.
so how did your like background in tech influence you to want to start this company?
Yeah. So I got into tech because no one would hire me because I was an awful student, and so random startups hiring me to work in sales was kind of how I got my first job. So along the way, I did that. I got a good job in sales. It was great, actually. I feel like things worked out for a reason, and I'm so grateful that I ended up doing sales. Learned a lot, lots of things that I still apply today. But anyways, had a job, started dabbling with investing. Uh, Two sides of the same coin. As a kid, um, our family faced financial insecurity. I'm an only child. It sort of almost tore our family unit apart. And so there was sort of this deep part of me that wanted to make sure I was financially secure to sort of hedge my life and my future family from the experiences I had growing up. On the other end of it, I was like in the grind and I was like fantasizing about like passive income and living on a beach, etc. So in 2014, started dabbling with investing, started exploring real estate, and bought my and was fortunate enough to buy my first rental in Sacramento in 2014. That kind of ended up snowballing into my future portfolio, and then ultimately the genesis of the company.
So, Andrew, you're obviously doing your part with Doorvest to impact the future of real estate. How do you see the real estate space evolving over the next, let's say, 5 years across the board?
Yeah, as you might or might not know, interest rates are at the real estate market itself is at a weird state, with obviously super dislocated. There's sort of this haves and the have-nots. There's folks that locked in sub 4% mortgage rates, and there's folks that obviously can't afford 8+% mortgage rates, and so the market I think is a bit messed up. Um, that being said, I do feel like this is where opportunities happen. Like things get uh, things get pulled apart and sort of rebuilt. So I think for instance, we see in a regulatory induced innovation that I think will come from the NAR ruling a little bit recently. I think the way that a lot of folks did business before in real estate, like buyer side commissions, that has to be totally reinvented. I'm not a fan of regulation by any means, but I do think this is probably directionally correct for the real estate industry and disentangles things. Um, and then similarly, you kind of see it all across the board because of the high interest rates too. For instance, a lot of our friends are builders, and the folks that were builders and were able to rely on ever increasing prices and selling to retail at higher and higher prices, etc. Like they really have to reimagine their business and how they think about transacting real estate going forward. Anyways, I don't have any major macro predictions for the industry, but I do think all the themes that we know in our gut that we think should happen, I fundamentally believe is going to get accelerated out of sort of this rough time for the industry broadly.
This is a very interesting space that you're in because real estate and a couple other industries, right? But real estate in particular, it seems like it is prone to a lot of the gurus putting out videos talking about, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. Can you talk us through, I guess, one myth about passive real estate investing that you wish more people knew the truth about?
Oh man, we could go on. We could spend the entire next 20 minutes in terms of gurus and whatnot. And by the way, like I do think there's probably a couple good ones out there, but I think the core of that lies in what is this individual's incentives and how does that align with my own. Of course, oftentimes these gurus are making money as I don't know selling courses and whatnot, and so their product is the course and potentially a bit removed from your own financial security. I think if we follow that train of thought, if their incentive is to uh, grow an audience and therefore sell a course, then oftentimes I think what they're incentivized to promote is things that are a little bit outside of the realm of reality, because this is eye catching. How do you make 50 grand with an hour a week, etc. Anyways, I think one of the more sort of common things that I don't think is the right path is optimizing purely for cash flow. So I think cash flow is critically important. Cash flow today is critically important. It helps you pay for your debt, i.e., your mortgage. It helps you pay for all of the other operating expenses and the stuff that comes up. But the relentless pursuit of cash flow, I think, leads one into tougher markets, homes that might not have durable long-term value, etc. And so I'd encourage folks that are getting started. And by the way, I fell into the wrong camp before. Lessons from that, but I'd encourage folks that are getting started to look more after the folks that like the big guys that we were talking about earlier. Invitation Home, Blackstone, American Homes for Rent, and the type of homes that they're buying. There's a reason why those guys with lots of money are buying certain assets versus some of these tougher cash flow yieldy homes.
Can you talk us through a little bit about how you pick the properties that are opportunities for your investors on the site?
Yeah, and actually, something that I'm sure you think about too is like real estate has a lot of different flavors too, and so there's certain audiences, certain product for certain audiences. For us in particular, we look for homes that are good neighborhoods. They're not the best neighborhoods; those ones get priced out, and they're also not the worst neighborhoods that tend to have a lot of cash flow, but break-ins and squatters. And I have plenty of crazy stories if you want to hear about it one day. Anyway, so like decent neighborhoods, like B's or C's is kind of where is our sweet spot, and have it, and it are in markets with good population and job growth. So we're also not trying to go into a tiny market with little economic activity. We're looking for large, healthy, durable markets that have sort of positive long-term trends behind their back. And then from there, it's pretty simple. Can we get a home that roughly breaks even, more or less, depending from a monthly basis, depending on the individual and the flavor, etc. And that's kind of our rough ballpark of how we think about homes and markets.
How has the increase in interest rates affected the business model, let's say over the last year, even?
Yeah, yeah, we're going on two
Probably,
plus
yeah,
years,
two
which
plus
is a
years.
yeah, it's been a while. I'd say certainly March, April of 2022, when like rates went up 1%. Next week, the rates went up another percent, and like real estate is going to go to zero, and like the market is done, etc. Like that was honestly a really tough time for the business. Um, I learned obviously a lot along the way, but I think that the biggest piece is the market could change. The market is super efficient. It could change overnight. Businesses take time. Like even if we woke up tomorrow and realize, oh crap, we're in this super high interest rate environment and we have to redesign the business. It'll take time for that to work its way through the business. I'd say for us in particular, we've really focused on less like just lots of growth and lots of new homes, etc., and focusing on getting better. So like finding better homes, period. Less of them, but better homes for our customers and for ourselves, and really up leveling sort of our management side of the business. That's been an area where I'd say we historically underinvested in when we were trying to get more homes on the platform, but really spending time there because we felt like as a business that our existing customer base would probably be our best source of future home sales. So spending a lot more time on that part, and you know, it was a rough time, but some of it I found really helpful for the business and push us to get more creative and better.
I want to go back to something you said a little while ago, Andrew. You were talking about I could go into some stories. I want you to pick one crazy story about one of these properties and share it with us here, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So my first home was a 3 bedroom, 1 bath in Sacramento, California. Bought it in 20, what was it? 2014 for $96,000. Um, it's worth like 350,000 now. I don't own it, unfortunately. I wish I owned it still. But this home was just like it was probably a D or so. And I made all of the mistakes along the way. And I think as a symptom of being a D neighborhood home with lots of like spreadsheet pro forma cash flow during those days, but symptom of that was like there's a lot of turnover. One time there was a turnover. I'd like roll up in my banged up Prius that I would drive around town in. I'd back in because sometimes there was I'd be nervous about what was in there and if I had to get out. I like walked in, looked, and there's like a lady cooking, and I'm like, wait, my resident moved out. Who the hell is this? And then she looks at me and she's like, get out of get out of my house. And I'm just stunned because this is my house and there shouldn't be anyone there. So obviously, I'm not gonna argue with her. I'm out. And then it turns out she was like the squatter that's been hanging out in the house and cooking and showering and stuff just she would make her appearance whenever I wasn't around and contractors weren't around, etc. And so related to that house too, like at one point I decided I didn't want to manage it myself. It was too much of a headache. Try to bring it to some of the big name property managers that were local there. And a bunch of them turned it down because they were like, "Oh, this is a neighborhood that we just don't service and see too much crime and too much action going on." Anyway, that was one of them.
That's that's super tough when you want someone else also to manage it and they're like, no, sorry, we won't. Like
Right.
it can't be a good situation when someone who would be getting paid to manage it says, I'm all set, keep your
Hey.
money, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
To think of the
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Wow. Um
Yeah. I mean, after that experience, I was like, okay, I don't know. I kind of don't want to be doing this. And maybe there's experts that know how to deal with this stuff, etc. And that's when I went shopping and I went and I think I talked to three of the highly referred property managers and they all turned it down. And so at some point I had to sell the home. I just couldn't deal with it. Like the money that I was making there's no way I could quantify the psychological value. Fortunately, I sold that one for about it for 96, sold it for 225 in a handful of years. Did great, very grateful for that, but I also missed out on the next run after that because I wasn't able to hold on because it was too tough.
when you say that price, anyone listening, it becomes pretty much unfathomable because like you're
Right.
not going to find homes that so like I would like you to comment a little bit. You're not going to, it's very rare to find a home at that price anymore, right? Or even close to that
Yep.
price. Or even if you factored in income levels and stuff that would still resemble that $96,000 price. I mean, what is your advice for people that want to get into real estate now? Like how, because it's not just they can't, right? There's other options, but like, how can they
Right.
get involved? Obviously, it's become more difficult for some, but like what's your advice to those people that want to buy their first property but are maybe like how do I afford it?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's funny is like looking back, agreed. 96,000 in a major US metro is like unheard of. At the time I didn't realize it though. The dude that sold it to me bought it for 40,000 uh 2 or 3 years before. So he made over 100% in a handful of years. And granted, he bought it out of the bottom of the recession and was mortgage and housing induced, etc. But at the time, I thought we had peaked. Clearly, in hindsight, I was wrong. And even when I sold, I thought I did great. And clearly, in hindsight, I was once again wrong. So anyway, I think my advice there is just find find whatever your entry point possibly is and get started. And I mean that in the bottom of my heart. At that time, I was concerned. I thought we had topped out. The guy made 100%. That's unheard of in real estate. Surely we're in for a crash. But I took the plunge. Worst case, maybe I lost a little bit of money, but the best case is I learned how to get into real estate, and fortunately, the equity built on top of itself. Um, one of these days, we'll get a billboard, and the goal is to say, I regretted buying that house 10 years ago. Said no one ever, because I think with time, similar to most investments, you'll do fine. Obviously, the details and the ebbs and flows is a different story, but net with enough time, you'll do okay. So just find something that you could comfortably get into, and then see where you go from
Are you going to be on the billboard like a Mr. Beast YouTube thumbnail like with
there.
like palm on that'd be actually that probably would work.
Yeah, yeah, you
uh
think so?
yeah, I mean, hey, it's or get him to be on the billboard, even better, right?
Oh, that'll be great. Yeah,
My last
Mr. Beast, if you're
question.
out there and listening, we would love to have you on our billboard.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's an avid listener of the podcast for sure, right? For sure. Last question for you, Andrew. If you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice when you first started Doorvest, what would it be?
You know, the advice on the company was actually similar to the advice on the real estate piece too. Like in the beginning, I was sort of trying to hedge my bets and working on it nights and weekends and just like taking my time and whatnot. And I actually really wish that we went all in a little bit sooner because the moment that Justin, my co-founder, and I went all in, that's where we really took off and we made so much progress. And the reality is like there's perceived risk and there's probabilistic risk. Worst case, we take 6 to 12 months. We try to start the company. It went nowhere. We go get another job or something. That's totally fine. And so I'd encourage people to think about perceived versus probabilistic risk. And if you're really holding yourself back because of perceived risk, like you should ask yourself why. Like maybe it's not something you care about, or maybe now's the time to take the plunge. So um, anyone looking to start a company would encourage just try it and go for it, and then you can always go back.
I don't remember who says it. It was either Les Brown or some other motivational speaker, but I love that quote: "Feel the fear and do it anyway."
Yeah, yeah,
I think a lot of people have said
yeah,
that over the years, but that's one of my favorite quotes out there because anytime you dive into entrepreneurship, right, there's a million uncertain. There's more reasons to not do it than ever to do it. And then when you watch interviews with
totally.
like Nvidia's Jensen, like
Yeah.
he says the same thing, right? Like if you look back, you probably wouldn't even have. A lot of people wouldn't even have started the companies because of how much
Oh
work it
yeah.
is, but that doesn't mean you don't start it. So
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that. Well,
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, just to cap that off, I'm sure you've gone through your own experiences too, and I'm sure many decisions in your day to day too feel really freaking scary. Us too, like multiple. It's not just one. But basically, you never regret the decisions. Like you think about it, you know that there's some fear in there. Maybe you try to make it a little bit smaller so it doesn't kill you, but you just got to do it, and trust that you'll figure it out.
100%. Yeah. No, you're spot on. Uh, well, Andrew, hopefully we can get you back on in the future and
Yeah.
chat some more, but really looking forward to continuing the conversation. And thanks so much for joining me on the podcast here today.
This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. Congrats on the podcast too. Big fan. And so, yeah, looking forward to the next one.